Hi there, I'm Jill Shivers from Shop Your Wardrobe.
And I'm Imogen Lamport from Inside Out Style. So we've been asked about how to balance the kind of issue of I want some part of the new fashion trend with what really flatters me. And I think it's always important, this topic, to balance those two elements.
Yes.
Because there's and this is where it depends where you are in your life. And I think, when you're 15, you probably just want to use all the latest fashion trends and you don't care about your body so much. But most of us, as we get older and we get more mature and we know I've spent a fortune on stuff and I've looked back at photos and I'm horrified by what was I thinking.
Sad but true.
It probably never happened to Jill, but it happened to me. But I think it's that sort of thing. It's like going, okay, well, how do I know what flatters versus new? And I think this is where, for me, it's there's an element of the more you know about what suits.
Yes.
My colours, my styles, what flatters my body shape, all the things I go through with my clients and in my 7 Steps program. I think that when you have this knowledge, and you would find this, wouldn't you?
Absolutely.
When you have knowledge, that is power.
Absolutely.
And then you can sit there and go, that fashion trend, that's really going to work for me, and I am going to get that because that's going to be great and it's going to give me freshness in my wardrobe. That other trend, that is going to be terrible, and I will avoid that. But then sometimes I think there's the trends where you look at them and you go, I know that doesn't suit my body, but I've decided I really like it. I want to have fun with it. I would buy it cheap, not expensive, and I'll play with it, but I won't expect it to stay in my wardrobe for long. And I'm going into this knowing it is not my best look.
Yeah. And there are 3 things that I would suggest that come into the picture here. One is colour. The second is body shape and silhouette, and the third is lifestyle. So for me, if ever I'm in a rare circumstance where I'm in a normal shopping environment versus vintage and op shopping, which is my favourite place to shop when I do shop, colour is a real easy one. Walk into a store, it's real easy to do a quick assessment, and I can tell without breaking my stride, walking past sometimes, depending on how the store is laid out, whether or not there's anything in there for me. And that's a real easy yes/no. I personally do not buy things that don't work for my colouring. That's a definite red light, green light for me. I know some people don't. They want to play with colours that appeal to them even if they're not in their colour palette, which is of course a choice you can make, and we might make a video about how you can do that in a way so that you don't look like you need a blood transfusion. So that's a really easy one if you want to have a criteria. The body shape and silhouette one is also really interesting, and this is one where I do play around a little bit more with things.
And I think most of us probably do in that area too.
Yeah, where you see something that you think, look, I don't think that's the best line for me, either, pants or skirts or jackets or those kinds of things. Anything sort of too belted doesn't work for me, but, I do have a few belted, trenchy, coaty kinds of things. But they're balanced by the fact that they're animal print. For those of you who know my story, I have 3 of them. And so even though the silhouette might not really work for me, I can have a bit of a play with that. And that can also be something fun. You know that a skinny sort of ankle croppy thing might not be great for you, but it's sort of something fun to play with. You do have to work harder at it though. You have to offset it in some way.
Yeah, and I think if you are going to buy into a trend that's really not flattering you, that you need to be aware of how do I make this work as well as possible.
That's right.
Or just going, it's got to be to me, the other way why you break all your rules has got to be such a personality piece.
Yeah.
It doesn't matter.
Yeah.
It has got to be shrieking your personality and that element of your personality that you want to break it with, which is generally one of those rule-breaking personalities, the kind of dramatic, creative, rebellious elements of personality.
Yeah.
They're the ones it works best with when you are breaking it. Yeah. Versus the classic doesn't work as well. Because classics really stick with rules. So when you're thinking about classic garments, don't break it with one of those because it will just look odd. Yeah. In a way but it's being creative or dramatic. Different story.
Yeah, it just gels with that personality.
And you mentioned lifestyle.
The lifestyle one too is, seeing something that, is for a lifestyle other than my own. Either there's something glamorous about it. Sometimes I see this with these heels that you think, I'm going to need to dial 1-800-chiropractor just looking at these shoes. These are I don't know who has a lifestyle.
What I call them the car to the bar shoes.
Car to the bar shoes, exactly.
And that's when I've been dropped off at the front door.
Minimal walking, wheelchair wheelchairs provided.
I can tell you, I actually did a presentation in a pair of these shoes once, and I had to take painkillers. And it was a 2-hour presentation. I had to take painkillers straight before so I could stand there for 2 hours.
So you were committed to wearing these shoes.
I was committed to the shoes. But I knew the downsides of them.
That's right. This is what we mean by you have to work a bit harder.
This is like beauty is pain.
Right. I need medication to make this fashion work for me. Some of us might not want to go that far, but we can all relate to the general idea that we've had to stretch something, in an unnatural direction to make it work. Then that's not to say it's not worth it, but just recognising you are rowing against the tide here, and there's always going to be a little bit of extra effort. And so that lifestyle piece is about, this really doesn't fit with how my life works, but I just want to have a bit of a play with it. I found that not so long ago there was things with sort of studs at this sort of military kind of, hard to quite describe, glam military. I don't know if that's an actual style.
It is now.
Right, it is. And I got this belt. I did get it pre-loved, and it's all sort of studdy with stuff sticking off it. And to me, that was a nice, fun way to play with it. That's a part of my body that shouldn't be emphasised with studs or anything else. But, a fun and low consequence way to play with something that catches your attention. And low consequence in many ways, but financial is certainly one of them.
And I think, too, it's also being aware of what's a fad, what's a trend, what's a classic.
Yeah, and you've got some great posts on that, which I'm sure you'll link to.
And so, like fads, I look at fads as things that are difficult to wear for the majority of the population.
Why they're being produced is a question that occurs to me. But they are. Let's accept this.
So I will look at these things and I'll go, these are the things that are going to last between maybe 6 months to a year. Right. And then they'll disappear out of the stores and you won't see them again. So fads are things like the printed or coloured pants that, most women don't want to draw attention to their lower body in that the hips and thighs and bottom area.
Yeah.
And so you go, well, they do draw attention. They are harder to wear. And so therefore they're trickier. And so what happens is more quickly we go, I'm sick of trying to compensate for this thing.
Yeah.
Fad goes out of the wardrobe more quickly.
Yeah.
Then we've got our trends. Now, these are the ones that last between 2 and 5 years. And they're the things I just go, if it's a trend and it suits you, get it in good quality because, you'll get the wear out of it if it's something that you love. And then we've got our classics. And our classics are the things, they're like a trench coat.
Yeah.
They're a dress pant. There's some things, I often think many kind of like evening wear dresses, but they're fairly simple, actually very classic, because they don't change much over time. And it's things like, your blazer and those sorts of elements.
Did trends ever become classics?
To a certain extent, but I don't think there's always something like, and even classics change.
Yeah.
The reality is, even classics change. And I say you can get between 7 and 10 years out of most classics, but you won't get more. I mean, the classic pant of 1990, if you're this old, was 2 pleats at the top, at the front of the waist, very high-waisted, 2 pleats at the front, quite a balloony shape, tapered, and they ended right on the ankle because you always saw your socks. By 2000, the classic black pant, or the classic work pant, was low-rise, flat front, and boot cut, and longer.
Yeah.
By 2010, it was a slim leg. It was a medium rise. So all
does
these
this
things,
mean we can't own things that are over 10 years
well,
unless
we
we
can,
risk looking...
But they're often the more creative garments.
Right.
And this is where people often get stuck thinking it's classic and it never changes.
Right.
I mean, think about the classic jacket of the 80s. They had the world's biggest shoulder pads.
Yeah.
So
had to go through doorways sideways.
gridiron player. So it's classics still change, and I think this is where people get stuck, is they assume things will last forever.
Right.
The things that actually last the longest time are the creative pieces that were never really in fashion, so they don't go out of fashion.
That's gold. That is really good.
And so I think this is when you are looking at, what do I bring in, what do I spend the money on, what do I splurge on, what do I save on? Like, think about those elements, and I think that's really going to give you a much better idea of what are the things I should spend money on versus, like, sometimes you go, I just want to have fun with that thing.
Yeah.
Sometimes I go, I just want to have a bit of fun with that thing, and that's fine.
Yeah.
But it's going to be a low budget item versus something that is really creative. I go, I could probably wear that for the next 20 years or 30 years.
Yeah.
And because you can't pin a time on it.
Yeah. The other thing I'd like to say about fashion trends is Just like the war on drugs in the 1980s, you can just say no. It really is okay to say, this is just not for me. It doesn't mean I'm caught in a time warp and I'm going to look old and frumpy and like I can't manage change and all that kind of stuff. It doesn't have to mean any of those things. It doesn't have to mean a thing at all. You get to choose with this. Fashion should be fun. And if that means saying no to it and doing something else for fun, well, that's really cool, and that's a personal choice, and I think you do a service to yourself when you exercise that choice and you do what works for you rather than feel any kind of pressure.
And the thing is that there'll be a new trend in a few weeks' time anyway.
Yeah.
So just because this trend isn't new doesn't mean there's not going to be a trend that I just go like, right at the moment, it might not be your stuff.
Yes.
And that's what often happens. There may be a trend where you go, nothing in stores suits me.
Yeah.
And you just go, just leave it. This is not for you, just leave it, because I can tell you it won't be long at the speed fashion changes before something comes in that does work.
Yeah, absolutely. So maybe tell us in the comments about your experiences with balancing fashion trends and bringing stuff in new, and how you balance that against what flatters.
And what it makes you feel, because often one of the things I notice is that often the things we end up liking the most are the things that still flatter us.
Yeah.
So getting that balance going, if I can find a trend that flatters me, that actually makes me the happiest.
Yeah, and clothes should be contributing to your happiness.
Yes.